Hello, Internet. My name is Ryan Ingram, and this is part one of the Millionaire by 30 series. So recently, as you all are familiar, I have recorded a video called The Wealth Formula, and I've also recorded a video called Millionaire by 30. And I got some tremendous feedback on those two videos. A lot of my friends and a lot of people that honestly don't know that well reached out to me and let me know that they really appreciated the videos, that they thought it was excellent content, and also that they have encouraged their kids to watch it. So I just kind of started, thinking through that and really appreciating that. And that's really what motivated me to start this series. And I'm just going to go through everything that I think is incredibly beneficial and has been beneficial to me on this journey. I recently hit this. I'm 29. Now, what I don't have are any stocks. I've got $0 in the stock market and I have 0 retirement accounts. So I've done this just solely via businesses and real estate. So that is what I have to offer, but nonetheless, I was able to do it. And I would say technically I started this when I was 24. So it's been about a 6-year journey. And this just really, I just want to summarize and be incredibly helpful for all those looking to do the same. Now, I do want to throw out a disclaimer. I just recently hit this mark, right? So I'm kind of a fragile millionaire. I said it's businesses, real estate. We all saw what happened in 2008. We all have seen how many businesses have shut down in this pandemic. So naturally, I'm just a few steps away from losing that, 7-figure status, right? So it's nothing permanent, but at the same time, the framework is where all of the money really is. Once you understand how to appropriately view money, once you understand how to interact with businesses and how to create value, then everything becomes a lot easier. All right, so for this series, I'm gonna be releasing one video per day and really just focusing around everything that I think you need to know in order to reach this goal faster. So let's start and see what happens. Any questions, comments, concerns, points of clarification that you want along the way, this is going to be really interactive. I'm going to go through this again once per day. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. So if you want any clarification, please let me know. I'm going to be pretty active in the comments and I'm going to be looking to answer all of your questions, because if this is your goal, then this entire series is incredibly important and I want it to work for your benefit. So I look forward to talking to you, hearing from you, and without any further, let's go ahead and dive into the first part. All right, so hands down, the most important thing is mindset. All right, mindset. So before you groan and click off this video, listen up. Just as there are 3,000 different ways to skin a cat, there's 8,000 different ways to become a millionaire. This mindset, I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times or heard other people talk about it on a video, but this is my take on it, number 3001 or 8001. You take your pick in the sentences that I just spoke. So on mindset, there are going to be 3 things that we're talking about: going back down to ground zero, installing filters, and just strategically rebuilding your mindset. So one of the most painful realizations that I came with, I shared this in another video, had a kid. My wife and I, we had our son. At that time, I was in law enforcement. She was an assistant principal. She made more than I did. We built our lives in a manner where on my salary alone, we wouldn't have been able to afford our house, our lifestyle, and all of that. So at the time, I was saving over 50% of my salary. Now, we could have dialed that way back and probably made ends meet, but we wouldn't have been able to save anything throughout, our whole lives from that. So I've always considered myself to be a high-performing individual. Technically, I became a pro racquetball player of all things. My senior year of high school, came in second in the national racquetball championships for high school. And then also shortly after that, I broke an American record for bench press. So all of these things, I learned discipline, I learned how to focus, set reasonable goals, and just go after it through that. So this is kind of the same thing, and I've recently done the same with becoming a millionaire. And in this, what I've learned, you have to censor and throw a filter on over everyone around you, because chances are, if this is your goal, then probably not many other people around you have the same goal. So Your parents, your brothers and sisters, your best friends, they aren't necessarily going to have this goal. Consequently, they don't have the right mindset in order to reach this goal, and neither do you. So you need to forget everything it is that you know, any sort of preconceived notions that you have around becoming a millionaire, forget it. Just absolutely forget it. Don't let your parents speak to you. Don't let your brothers or sisters speak to you. Anyone in your community that isn't a millionaire, you do not need to listen to anything they have to say about becoming a millionaire. Sure, you can listen to them about anything else in the world, just not this, because they have no experience. If they share any experience with you, then it's going to be something that's probably third hand. They had a bad experience with a rich person. They thought somebody was greedy. Somebody, rubbed them the wrong way when they took $10 instead of giving them $5. One guy had a great, nice car, but didn't leave any tip. Something like that. It's kind of like if you hear about rental properties, some people will immediately say, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to wake up at midnight and, go plunge a toilet. Well, I don't either. I've got 63 properties and I've literally never been in that predicament. All I'm saying is you need to be very mindful of who you take advice from, and you also need to guard yourself from yourself. So you need to forget everything that you know, go back down to ground zero on your mindset, and start from there. Ground zero. All of your opinions, all of your ideas, forget them. You don't know anything. You're not here. And if you keep operating off of the same system that you have in your head, you won't be here. If you haven't yet currently achieved your goal, then you haven't yet achieved the mindset that you need in order to achieve that goal. Ground zero is where we need to start. Now, how do you know you've actually achieved ground zero? That's when you are actively looking for wisdom from people that have achieved this, that do have good things to say about this, and you listen to them. You bring no preconceived notions. You listen to them. You come to the conversation with the understanding that you don't know anything. You're only here to take notes and learn and attempt to hit this. Pretty much any room that you walk into, you are the least knowledgeable about the subject. Now, I'm not saying ground zero means having zero confidence. I'm saying ground zero is the humility that's required in order to sit at a conversation with someone that's incredibly wise, take notes, truly listen, and just kind of marinate in the knowledge that they're giving you, and then figure out how to take action on those items. So the ground zero mindset is being completely sold on the understanding that you do not know anything. You have to rely on others that are more wise to help you get to where you're going. The second thing it is that you need to do is install filters. Okay, now what I mean by this is now that you're at ground zero, you're starting with a clean slate, you're an infant attempting to figure out how the world works so that you could achieve your goal, right? So in this stage, you want to install filters and guardrails around everything it is that you put into your brain that's remotely related to this. Types of filters that I'm talking about are pretty much summarized really easily, and that is beneficial, not beneficial. Okay, and the reason that filters are so important is that if you're at ground zero and you find somebody that's a millionaire, then you might kind of cling to them and say, hey, teach me everything that you know. I want to do what you've done. And that is completely wrong. You do not want to rely on one source if you're at ground zero. You need to have just a vast array of subjects that you can choose from, that you can learn from, a bunch of mentors, coaches, authors, speakers. You need to take in as much possible information as you can and filter it all through. How is this applicable to me, my skill sets, and where I'm attempting to go? So this is the main filter that I run through almost every conversation that I have, right? You're going to meet a lot of people that fall in this criteria. Not all of them are worth listening to. You're going to want to try to find, is this person strategic? Is he logical? Do they actually have a bunch of action Are they actionable? The things that I find personally to not be beneficial are talkative. That's funny writing that and saying that as I'm up here teaching, but if anybody were to know me in person, I am not a talkative individual. I don't think I have any good friends that would describe me as such. It's actually a very large pet peeve of mine. If I meet one of these people, I have slammed them in this category, and I am just overwhelmingly surprised if they say anything beneficial, because generally talkative people, they don't listen, which violates one of the Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends and Influence People rules. And if you're not listening to me, you don't know anything about me, which means you have no real interest in who I am, which means you don't really care about what happens to me. You just want to talk about yourself. Another not beneficial filter that you want to run things through is irrelevant. There are going to be a few people that have been extraordinarily successful, but it was many moons ago. They did one thing that was phenomenal that resulted in a plethora of cash, just so much money. But they haven't done anything in a while. They've kind of made themselves irrelevant by not working anymore. A lot of people, once they reach a status, they just kind of stop. Once you get comfortable in life and once your worry about bills, you don't have anything chasing you anymore, then some people just kind of stop. And you just want to make sure that somebody is not irrelevant or inactionable. So you want to make sure the person is recent and relevant. This one is a little bit obvious, but you've got to put it down. They have to be like caring or loving. All right, we've all met those people who are only in it for themselves. They don't really care about you. They're using you as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. You want to make sure that that is not the person that you're dealing with. So when you are looking for a mentor, when you're looking for information, you want to make sure that the people that are giving you that information care for you, love you, want to see the best for you. All right, so I think you get the gist. So we're gonna move on from these filters. But pretty much as you are at ground zero, as you're attempting to rebuild your life, rebuild the fabric of who you are, reach your goals, become laser focused on achieving what it is that you've set your sight on, then you need to install these filters. All of these things, you need to make sure, you need to have just this mental list. So each time you hear new information, run it through these things, figure out if it fits you, if it works in your strategy. If it doesn't, leave it and just continue your search elsewhere. All right, the third and last thing, which we've already kind of hinted at. All right, so your strategic rebuild. What I mean by this is you are a blank slate. You are a babe. If you are a bucket, you would be empty. You're looking to get as much wisdom, as much knowledge inside of you as possible. You've put on your filter. If you were a bucket, you would have some sort of cloth or some sort of filter over it, and you'd be pouring as much into that bucket as you possibly could. You only want exactly what you're after, right? So when you're strategically rebuilding, what you're going to want to do is consume as much content as you can. I think my video is a good start, but I'm incredibly biased. You want to look for, obviously, influencers, and I don't mean that in the YouTube sense. I mean that as in authors, speakers, doers, mentors, podcasts. The list goes on, right? There's tons of mediums of literature. I've mentioned previously that whenever my wife and I really wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom, it had me put my man card on the line because my salary didn't provide for my family the way it wanted to. I was really frustrated with that. Again, I've always considered myself to be a high-performing individual, so I took to books, to authors. I started reading one book per day, and I told myself, I committed to the fact that I would read one book per day until I could solve the problem, until I could fix this income issue, right? So I was at ground zero. I realized that my existence, my life, my family's life, how I was providing for us, it wasn't sufficient. My mindset wasn't right. I didn't know what I didn't know. If I knew how to pick up and immediately achieve the, lifestyle, the income that we wanted, I would have done it. But I didn't know, and I didn't know who to look to, right? So I took to books. I started reading everything that I could get my hands on, anything revolving around money, anything revolving around businesses, anything revolving around becoming a millionaire, anything revolving around mindset, all of the classics. And this is where I am 3 years later, talking to you guys. When you're doing this, when you are strategically rebuilding, when you're putting tons of the right information in, then you also want to, really step up your due diligence and make sure that these filters you install withstand everything that you're putting in. You're going to find favorite authors, and you're going to find favorite speakers and doers and mentors, but don't become enamored with any one individual. You want to test what someone is saying with everything that they do. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have any stocks. I don't have any retirement programs. I think I'm in the minority of people that you're going to read about how to become wealthy that doesn't have any of those. So why don't I? You're going to want to figure out my reasoning for not having those, and then you're going to want to test it with a bunch of other people that you're also reading. Don't just blindly follow one individual. You're going to want to just, test a little bit of a variety of people and figure out which individual most benefits you. The further you get into this, the more your filters are going to be tested. Your friends, your families, the people that have supported you for a long time. The more progress you start making, the more research you start doing, as you start, strategically rebuilding your mindset and start changing from the person that they knew to who you want to be, things are going to get weird. Things are going to get a little uncomfortable. It's super sad to say that a lot of my friends have changed. I have tons of people that I still keep in touch with regularly, but others, they were just kind of poisonous. I love them dearly. I would do anything for them if they reached out to me, but I couldn't communicate with them anymore because they were not beneficial, right? Everything they said, everything they wanted to talk about, what they put their energy in, where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do, it was all counterproductive to my goal. So I had to make a decision. There's a threshold of how much not beneficial stuff you can allow inside of your head and around you before you just get completely derailed by your goal. So you want to be constantly monitoring and mindful of that. All right, so that was the beginning of this series. This was number 1. So as we're going through this, again, comment, questions, any concerns, points of clarifications that you have. This one I think is pretty cut and dry. Mindset is super important, right? I'm going to give you a list of books that I think you should read pretty immediately. That's going to be difficult since these videos are daily, and I highly encourage you to subscribe, put the bell on, because for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, this is the only topic it is that I'm going to be talking about. And unfortunately, I've been reading excessively for the past 3 years, so I have tons of books to recommend, but I'm going to recommend 4 here now, and that is Mindset, Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'm not going to write them on the board. I'm just going to put them somewhere here when I'm editing because I think that's cooler. Mindset by Carol Dweck, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and The Magic of Thinking Big. Those are 4 books that I recommend that you read absolutely as quickly as possible because they are going to be a key part of your strategic rebuild. So like I said, patience and grace with this series, please, okay? Because, a few guys reached out to me, let me know that their kids were watching. It took me off guard, but it really excited me. So I decided that I'm going to put this together, right? So it's not fully baked. And what I mean by that is it's not a fully formed idea. I knew this is awesome. I knew this is a series that I wanted to produce. This is content that I've just been, I've been laser focused on for the past 3 years of my life. It's stuff that it can roll off my tongue. It's easy to say. I want to share this information, but nonetheless, it's just been a few days in the work. I wanted to wait and wait and wait until I had this perfect script, this perfect outline. But I said, you know what? I'm committed. I want to do this. It will never be perfect. I'm just going to dive right in and start producing these series. So your feedback is most certainly incredibly important in all of this. I've got topics that I'm going to go over for the next 6 series. And then through that, I have the sneaky suspicion that as I'm doing it, more stuff is going to take form and you're going to have more questions of which I need to clarify and are probably phenomenal points. So I absolutely can't wait and hear from you guys. So thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.